Welcome to Andy Ari On3, your instant reaction, presented by Wendy's. We just watched the Big 12 championship game. Ari and Arizona State beat the living dog out of Iowa State. And I have a question for you, courtesy of Jason in the chat.
Okay.
Who loaded this one up. I don't know Jason, but I appreciate Jason for programming this show very, very well, because his question is it hyperbole to think that Arizona State is a live dog in whatever 12-5 matchup they might get? That team that we watched today kicked some ass.
Oh yeah, the Cam Scattaboo emergence the last few weeks for people who hadn't been watching Arizona State much this year has been really fun to watch. Like in my mentions today, especially, like people are like, I never really watched ASU that much, and then I'm watching him today, and I was like, this guy's really, really, really good. So
the run he had in the first half, which like Kyle Brandt, if you're watching this from the NFL Network, that's your angry run for this week. I don't care what happens in the NFL games. That's your angry run for this week. Producer River showed me a run from high school for Cam Scattaboo. That was even better than that one, if you can imagine.
Yeah. So the question is that the team that nobody wants to play right now? Is that basically
I sure as hell don't want to see that team.
Yeah. Well, the thing about these postseason tournaments, and football and basketball are very different sports, but like they've won 6 games in a row, and it's almost like ascending at the right time and feeling good, and like that ELE, everybody love everybody mentality in the locker room and stuff. Like Arizona State is feeling itself, and to beat the crap out of Iowa State in a game, and really we didn't know what was going to happen. I thought this was a toss-up.
Yeah, we said it we were walking around this morning, and Ari goes, what's your real feel? Like if you're putting down your actual money on these games? And for the Big 12, I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no clue.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any idea. That was a really tough game to try to cap in the beginning, Andy, and like watching it now, it's like you almost feel stupid for not seeing that coming. And I think that's what happens when Sam Levitt is as smooth and good as he is. That's what happens when you have a running back. Like Iowa State just had no answer at all physically.
Can I tell you what Cam Scattaboo's best play of the game was?
Sure.
Okay.
The throwaway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The football IQ.
That was an insane play.
That was almost really dumb because he threw it away a little too close to a defender, but the wherewithal to think of that.
In order to execute it the right way, you can't have a noodle arm, but yeah.
I'm a running back who's about to lose 16 yards on this play, but if I just throw it in the vicinity of a receiver and it hits the ground, I lose 0. He gained them however many yards he gained them.
Yeah. So let's just talk about this for a second, because like Arizona State is in the playoff. We don't know who they're going to play in the first round yet, but like also too is a very dangerous team. But you know what I was thinking about the entire time I was watching the second half? Remember that NFL draft picture of Cliff Kingsbury sitting in a Scottsdale house on his couch with the glass? And it just reminded me of like the situation that Kenny Dillingham is in right now. And I wrote a column about this just a minute ago on On3. It should be up any minute, about the literal fork in the road that Arizona State is going to. I was actually talking to somebody on the phone and they said it, and then it clicked. So I'm not going to take the credit for it, but Arizona State is ahead of schedule. I think, in conversations with Kenny before he took the Arizona State job, this was like a 4 or 5 year plan. Somebody who wanted to go to Scottsdale, knew, the situation that the program was in when he took it, the NCAA sanctions, all the stuff that was going on there. It could have been a disaster with the COVID stuff and the Herm stuff. Like and for them to be in this position right now is so much further ahead of schedule for the build. And if you know anything about Kenny, you know that he's from Scottsdale. He went to ASU. His family is there. His wife's family is there. This is the perfect place for him to be, and he could have lived this Cliff Kingsbury life.
For people who don't know, so Kenny Dillingham was a student at Arizona State. He was helping his high school alma mater as a coach. Yeah, Chaparral, which is a great program. Produces great players,
and a lot of crushes for me in high school went there. Just so you know,
I can only imagine what that was like.
Yeah,
but Kenny Dillingham basically went and volunteered with the staff at Arizona State. Like Mike Norvell will tell you about this guy, and he's basically just out of high school. Like he's a college student, and Norvell's like, "Oh, you're helping out with your high school. Well, are you willing to come in at 5:30 in the morning, just hang with us?" And Dillingham's like, "Yep,
yeah,
100%." And he did it. He did it completely from the ground up, grassroots. And it's interesting because you and I were talking about this during the game, and it was you saying, well, Kenny, he wants to live there. He's not leaving. And I'm like, Ari, he's a coach. What if Ohio State opens in a couple of years?
And that's the Pandora's box that opened in my brain because I have spoken to him in the past. I know people that know him were relatively the same.
But
age
I
and grew up in
believe
the same
you,
city.
and I believe him because I've talked to him about it too. Like a lot of coaches you talk to, and they say, "Well, this is the last job for me," and it's not.
Yeah,
I think he could be happy doing this job for a while.
But here's the difference too, Andy. Scottsdale and Tempe and Phoenix is a city.
It's pretty awesome.
It's not a southern town. It's not a Midwestern town in the college. It's not State College. It's not Tuscaloosa. It's a beautiful city that people go to for vacation.
And for people who don't know the geography, like Tempe is a kind of mini college town within a major city.
But you're a mile away from the edge of Scottsdale.
But you can live in Scottsdale with the grown-ups like Kenny Dillingham probably is going to.
Yeah.
And be perfectly happy, raise your family. And the thing is, I'm interested because Kenny Dillingham is a different generation of coach.
Yeah.
He's come along in a different era. He doesn't care about it. Like, you're not going to hear him whining about any of this stuff because he understands I'm 35 years old. I got to do this for 25 more years.
Yeah. And it's like you're one of the coaches that, like in that newspaper analogy of like, do you want to write 19 things a week or do you want to write 2 for a newspaper? And the older people were upset. He'll do anything. Now the question, and this is what I was getting to when making that fork in the road pun, is like Arizona State fans should be rejoicing in the run that they're having right now, right?
Yeah.
But he is 3 years probably ahead of schedule in his own mind. And I don't know if he'd ever admit that publicly, but I think that's
I don't even think he has to. I think we can go back to the interviews we did with him when he got the job.
Like, I think he knew this was going to be a process.
Yeah.
So that's great. At Arizona State, being ahead of schedule and in the playoff and winning the Big 12 in year 1 is the best possible news that you could have. But the bad news is that teams now who are looking for a coach, and there aren't that many in the power level this year, so that could be a saving grace for Arizona State. And it's also
there's not a job that you'd want to take over what you have now.
Right now, that's open. So now the question is all this success going to make him one of the hottest coaching candidates in this cycle and the next cycle as a result of his age, the ballsy plays he had out there, like that 4th and 1.
That was a
50-yard pass over the top.
That was a beauty.
The offensive mind. And I think that, like, if you watch him play or watch him coach, he's a 35-year-old man who is still learning how to be a coach too. Like, this isn't the final product of who he's going to be.
You know who he reminds me quite a bit of is a guy he used to work for, is Dan Lanning.
Yeah. And like, if that's mini Dan Lanning at ASU in that conference, in that place near California, the bottom line here is going to be if Ohio State calls, if Florida State, a place that he worked, calls, if Dan Lanning goes somewhere else somehow, like you know how the sport is, it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
And they call and say, hey, we're going to double your salary and your NIL budget is 5 times more than it is at Arizona State. Then he has something to think about that he might not have been considering 2 years ago when we had these discussions. So Arizona State this year, obviously the focus in the moment is do the best that you can and prepare for the playoff and make as deep of a run as possible. But this is a very crucial offseason for ASU's administration, their fans, in terms of NIL buy-in, because he's going to come back to the drawing board and he's going to be like, okay, well, here's Sam Levitt. Like, how are we going to retain this person?
You got to reward him, got to retain him.
How are we going to go get guys in the portal? Because I think Arizona State is a wonderful transfer destination, and they'll be able to get guys, but they're going to have to be able to pay guys, and people are going to have to step up both administratively and fan base support.
And really with rev share coming, it's a matter of what is Arizona State's administration going to do? Are they going to fully fund rev share? How much of that is going to football? All of those questions have to be answered.
And he did go, like, he has proven that he can win in the portal. Their 2 best players are portal kids that he went and got. So
let's table the conversation about the distant future and talk about the immediate future, because Arizona State is going to be playing in a playoff game in less than 2 weeks or 2 weeks. It's going to be 13 or 14 days from now that Arizona State is playing in a playoff game. We think they're probably the 12 seed based on what we know now, but the Clemson SMU game could change that.
Yeah. So the seeding conversation is going to be really great tonight.
Yep.
And depending on what happens with the ACC game, who's in this debate might break out. But yeah, so where do you think, because I think we're both going to do brackets tonight, right? Like, that's the plan.
Yeah, we'll do some dueling brackets.
I don't know how,
the same.
if you can start it even yet. Like, how do you have to wait for these games to finish? But Arizona State, in terms of where they should be seated, like, what happens if Clemson wins? Where do they get seated?
Well, it's a great
in relation
question.
to the ACC.
And somebody asked me this question, Ari. because right now Alabama will be seated 11th if chalk holds. Based on what you just saw, Arizona State's lost one fewer game than Alabama. Would you put Arizona State ahead of Alabama?
Yeah, without question.
Okay, then Alabama might be the 12th seed.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing nobody thinks about. Everyone assumes the 12 seed is going to be somebody who was not ranked number 12 who got lifted up to number 12. If SMU beats Clemson, you could have a situation where all of the conference champions that make the playoff, all 5 of them, are ranked number 11 or higher.
Yeah, and one of Arizona State's losses this year was without Levitt, right? So
correct.
So they're in a position where the committee does obviously take into account who's your personnel and how it's going. They might view that differently too. So like Arizona State's a very attractive candidate right now. And I don't know if
let's not make any assumptions about the seeding. Like Alabama, we think that's the team that's going to come out of that glut of 3 lost teams and 2 lost Miami. Whether it is or not, that team, whatever team they choose, might not be 11. That team might be 12. And that changes the dynamics of a potential 12-5 game. Like, because we don't know if Notre Dame's going to be 5, if the loser of the Big Ten championship game is going to be 5, if the loser of the SEC championship game is going to be 5. We have no idea right now.
How high reasonably do you think ASU could go up?
I think they go to 11 probably. I think it'd be right behind.
But you don't
Boise
think they
State
could crack the top 10? Or...
Well, if you we've said all along we don't think they'll go past Boise State. Boise State's number 10 in the rankings.
Yeah. But then if Boise State ascends to 3, then there's that.
Well, that's
change.
if Clemson wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arizona State's your 4 seed probably if Clemson wins. Clemson would be the 12.
So
seed.
they could jump pretty dramatically. So like the thing about putting the bracket is I think that like as we sit here right now, we know who 10 of the 12 teams are absolutely going to be.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 are still in question because of the ACC game, but then also too, like the seeding is going to be difficult. So, but Arizona State, congratulations. I know that like over the years, we haven't talked about them much, and it really is a fascinating job. And I do wonder if in 5 years from now, like Arizona State, when you think about everything that they have to offer, where they're located, recruiting ground, Arizona is this is a thing. Like, cause I grew up there and I understand
it's a transient population. But nobody's from there. It's like me being from Florida.
But nobody's from there. But people like my parents and even people that are a little bit younger than my parents now have kids like the population is booming and kids are now I'm from there, but I think I'm like the first generation of kids who are from there.
Yeah.
You know? So like that changes the whole thing with recruiting is always population trends, right?
Sure.
And Phoenix is one of the largest cities in America now.
Actually,
so
we're sitting in Nashville right now. Like I guarantee you Nashville in 15 years will be a giant recruiting. Nashville is where Atlanta was in 1995.
Yeah.
And now Atlanta is probably the best high school football talent city in America.
And then you're also a 5-hour drive to California, which is a place that USC can't recruit.
The other thing about Metro Phoenix that people don't realize, the high school coaching in Metro
Phoenix really good,
is exceptional. The offenses are so advanced for high school, and that's why so many good quarterbacks come out of there.
So you can, if you're a coach, I mean, being an assistant at ASU is really attractive too, Andy, because you can drive from Phoenix to LA and you can drive by Casino Morongo out there in Palm Springs.
I thought it was the outlet mall you like to hit out there.
It's the best outlet mall in America out there. And I can't remember if it's Palm Desert or whatever. That's my favorite drive in America. And I hope that maybe in a few weeks we can share it together. But I'm excited so much, new teams, new blood. These are the positives of the 12.
Yeah, Arizona State's the one, and it's like you can go 5 Arizona State coaches back. I think we go back to Dirk Cutter. This place is a sleeping giant. They all said it.
Because we have to outline the things that Arizona State has. Okay, let's do it.
Yep.
Without getting in trouble. Okay, one is location.
Yes.
Right? And location from a beauty standpoint, not a recruiting standpoint.
But number 2, cool town, big city.
Yeah. Awesome.
Easy airport to get in and out of.
Huge.
Near the airport, too.
Yeah, near the airport. In and out near the airport, too.
Burger, that is. We're not going to get in trouble here.
Location from recruiting, because that's a different thing, right? You have a stadium that's built into the side of the mountain. Anybody who watched the game today saw how cool their uniforms can be if they don't mess it up. With
Actually, I'm so glad you said that. I had a 4-minute diatribe, a 4-minute rant on it. I mean, we can reduce it, but they kicked Iowa State's ass because Sparky was on the helmet.
It is maybe the coolest logo in sport, in the sport, right?
We're going to see that tonight. That's the SMU pony.
That's a good one too. I don't know,
but it's
Sparky's
close. It's
electric.
very close.
But let me keep going.
Okay, go ahead.
Massive school. I don't think people realize this, but it's like Ohio State, but in Tempe.
I think it's larger than
It's probably larger than Ohio State.
I think Arizona State and UCF kind of trade off for largest school
which
in America.
means that as the kids who grew up with me go there and graduate from there, and we get closer to 40 and 50, and then our kids start going through there, there's more support financially because there's so many people who came and so many people who care. And I think that like the Valley itself can be more of an Arizona State situation as a result of more people caring and going there. You know, the weather is amazing. There's just a lot to it. So I think that when you say sleeping giant back in 2020, that also meant location to talent versus in relation to how big your place is. Now think about it. Like, what if you want to go get a receiver out of the portal who, like Jaden Reed? Why wouldn't Jaden Reed go from Michigan State to Tempe? Like, if you're a good, I think
Sam Levitt can make the pitch, right?
It's perfect example. Yeah, because that's exactly where he came from. But like, what I'm saying is like, if you're a good program and you take an official visit in December or January during portal season to Arizona State, and it's 74 degrees and bright blue in the sky and gorgeous, and you go hike and go to Fashion Square Mall. And
they're not going to hike or they're Fashion Square Mall.
What type of hiking we're talking about.
It's a hell of a Five Guys they got at Fashion Square Mall. But
I'm saying, like, when you think about like, you've walked around Phoenix in January, it's amazing. It's like an oasis.
Yeah.
So like, I do think that there are building blocks for Arizona State. Like, this is the thing, and this is what the column is about. Is this step one to Arizona State actually activating the Valley? And activating the Valley means not just interest, it means money.
Yeah.
Or is this the first step of Kenny Dillingham becoming bigger than the job he has? Like, and those are the two things that, you know, you're going to have to weigh.
I don't think there's an answer to that today. Here's a question from Azim that we can't answer right now, but we can probably answer. We can definitely answer in the next 24 hours. If Arizona State doesn't get one of the 4 byes, the committee might rank them ahead of Alabama and Indiana. I don't see them rising in front of Tennessee, though. I didn't think about that, but I'm glad Azim brought that up.
Yeah.
Is Indiana in danger of getting jumped by some of these?
Yeah,
they're not going to be knocked out of the playoff.
Yeah. We're talking about seeding now.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like, Indiana isn't playing today, but like Arizona State still has.
Elias says double-digit loss at Cincy will be talked about thoroughly. Yes, Elias, it will be talked about because Jeff Sims started that game and not Sam Levitt. Yeah. Sam Levitt was hurt. So they have a built-in excuse for that game, which, again, we always wondered, how will they handle stuff like that?
The thing that's like interesting to me, it's like the seeding stuff is interesting. Like, if you think about like an Arizona State fan right now, do they even give a crap? Like, obviously
they're just happy.
They do. Could they just be happy before we start like
they're just happy?
Indiana?
They're like, okay,
they're in the playoff.
Where are we going? And are we going somewhere? Because the question of are we going somewhere is legitimate. Now, how about this? If they get a bye, ooh, this is tricky. If they get a bye, they may have to go to the Peach Bowl.
Yeah. I think they will lovingly take the bye.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But you'd want to be in the Fiesta Bowl. But if Boise State's still ahead of them and Boise State's the 3, this would be Boise State the 3, Arizona State the 4, Clemson the 12.
Yeah. So do you still think that Boise's firmly ahead, or does that game change your mind? Because the way they won,
I still think Boise State's firmly ahead, but the way they won it, I think, gives you consideration about, could they put them ahead of Alabama? Could they put them ahead of Indiana? Could they put them ahead of Boise? It's a legitimate question.
I know we're getting there in the minutes of this video, but can I leave you with a take?
Please.
Kind of a spicy one, dude.
Oh, this will be great. Everybody can ruminate on this as you watch the SEC championship game.
Right into the barrel of the camera.
All right, go. Okay, hold on. Let me get out of your way.
Cam Scattaboo is more fun to watch than Ashton Genty.
Okay. I disagree.
More fun to watch.
They're
I didn't
both
say he's
fun.
Better.
They're both fun. You tell me that Ashton Genty barreling through tacklers over and over again, just like Cam Scattaboo does, like that. There's equally
I was more
fun.
Entertained by Scattaboo today.
Equally fun.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, that's it's a video. We're trying to get, I'm just telling you
I'm
how
not allowed to have my take on your take.
No, but I just want you to realize that that's not I actually am more entertained.
I got it.
Because Ashton Genty is just great.
I think Cam Scatterbo might just be
he
great.
Is just great, but like it's just a different, like the different type of, and like Ashton Genty runs through people, but the way that Cam runs is just very like old school feeling to me. It's just like it feels
using a lot of code words here, Ari.
It feels like Peyton Hillis.
Of course, you went with a white guy.
Yeah, well, that's not what I'm getting at. But,
That doesn't exist.
But like
I'm just saying what everybody watching is thinking.
Well, if that's what you're thinking, then that didn't even occur to me. But yeah, just an entertaining player to watch. Ashton Genty, I think, is a better football player.
Listen, they're both really good.
Yeah,
they're both super fun to watch. And guess what? We're gonna watch them both in the college football playoff because both of their teams are in. Who else will be in, and where will they be? We don't know. But let's watch Georgia and Texas play, and we'll be back after that game. We'll break it all down.